Okay, it's always good to be back. I appreciate you joining me, Rick, on the Fighting Network. I try to get back here every week, and it's the challenging part is not so much having new guests all the time. Um, it's just doing it, and stuff. But I really I like the challenge of doing it once a week. And I know we're going to have a good talk today. Folks, I've got my friend here, Rick Hager. He's top 1% in the network marketing industry, just a great guy. I've been following him for a couple years. And we've got some connections with people that are in the network marketing industry, real legends. And he's learned from those guys, and I've learned from those guys. So, in the network marketing industry, we're like one big happy family. It's funny, Rick, isn't it? How like there's certain people that we've all studied under, and these guys, these are just legends, and I know that we think a lot alike, so this should be a good talk.
Yeah, it's interesting how when you look at a lot of the companies and you look at a lot of the organizations and a lot of the top leaders, a lot of the fingerprints trace back to just a small handful of places. And so yeah, it's exciting. I'm excited to be here. Thanks so much. It's an honor to jump on and chat, and looking forward to it.
Yeah. So, Rick, will probably go 20 minutes or so. We could go 30 minutes. Hey, we could go 40 minutes. Depends on how fun this gets. But I know that, being in a network marketer for almost 40, 40 years, it's hard. I can't even imagine 40 years. I started when I was 25 years old. I'm in my 60s now. But I'll tell you, it was for me, and I know probably for you, getting involved in network marketing was a game changer, a life changer. My background's very limited. I used to be a car salesman. I sold Cadillacs,
Wow.
and so that's kind of my background. But when I get started in network marketing, I just wanted to be my own boss, and I wanted to make my own time, and I wanted to have an opportunity, just to do above average in life. And that has certainly happened for me, and I know it's happened for you because you're a top 1%er, which is pretty awesome. I have some questions I want to ask, but I want to start off by talking about how important is it for entrepreneurs, because it's all about entrepreneurship is being in business for yourself, regardless of the business you go into. But how important is mindset and being able to control your thinking in order to be successful as an entrepreneur? Could you touch on the importance of mindset?
Yeah, I think, Jack, if you were to ask me what the most important thing in all of this is, if you could pick two or three things, this is the first thing that I would say. It's mindset. It's how you think. It's what you think about. It's what you focus on. It's what you believe. It's your belief system. It really is the foundation of everything. I think if you look at any successful person in our industry, or not just in our industry, in any field of endeavor, what you're going to find is they just think a little bit differently. You're going to attract into your life what you believe that you can attract into your life. Of course, there has to be action backing these things up, but it all starts with mindset. I mean, what you believe you're worth, what you believe you're capable of. It's your attitude, how you approach certain things, when something happens, how do you respond to that? Do you respond in a positive way or a negative way? So mindset, for me, it's the number one foundational principle, because look, ultimately, here's the thing: is we could teach people all types of strategies and tactics and ideas, and we can show them the how-tos. But if that mindset isn't there, all of that stuff eventually is going to crumble down. So when I start with new folks, one of the first things I do is I come right out of the chute talking about mindset, right out of the chute talking about attitude, and you find out real quick that not everybody believes the same things. Not everybody believes in the same potential and what they can accomplish. So that becomes I think a main theme for any leader in our industry, is always be working on helping your team to develop their belief and their mindset and get their attitude dialed in. And it's a long way of answering your question. For me, it's the foundational piece. I mean, without that, nothing else will work long term.
Yeah, no doubt. What do you do to keep your mindset straight? I mean, I have my things that I do. I start my day off every morning. I was a big personal development guy. I still am, but I switched over to spiritual development, and I get all my strength from the Bible. And I listen to Jim Rohn. I listen to Tony Robbins. I listen to Earl Nightingale. I read the books, but do you have things that you do daily to help you with your mindset?
Yeah, for me, it's all about three things. It's read, listen, and associate. Read, listen, and associate. So what that means for me is that every day I try to read out of a good book, out of some book that's inspirational, out of a book that helps me, keep my attitude dialed in. It could be a book that teaches certain things, principles and ideas, but I really believe that if you can read, even if it's just 10 minutes a day, 15 minutes a day, whether it's in the morning or in the evening or maybe both, you're going to be able to accumulate some information, and it starts to work on your attitude when you're reading. Listening, which could be podcasts, it could be conference calls, it could be a Zoom. Listening to good information is just another medium as well. If I'm in my car, I tend to listen to audiobooks or podcasts and things that just feed me with positive information. And then the associating part is just events. I try to associate with people in my circle that think the same way that I do or think bigger than I do. So by reading every day a little bit, by listening every day a little bit, by associating with the right people, it's almost like you begin to put a bubble around yourself so that you can maintain an unshakable attitude, and it just keeps elevating your thinking. And the more you can surround yourself with that type of information that's even bigger and stronger than what maybe you're looking for right now, you continue to grow yourself. And so read, listen, associate. That's always been the things for me.
Read, listen, associate. Yeah, for sure. Now, being a top 1%er, mindset is a huge reason why you're a top 1%er, right?
Well, you can't get there. And that, please don't misunderstand me for those that are listening to this or watching this right now. Not everybody wants to be in the top 1%. That's okay. I mean, if someone just wants to make an extra $500 a month or $1,000 a month, that's okay. But I believe very strongly that whatever seed you plant is what's going to come up. If you plant a tomato plant, you're going to get a seed. You're going to get tomato plant. If you plant watermelon seeds, you're going to get watermelon. So whatever your mindset is, that's about the level that you're going to get to in life. And if you can get to whatever level that is important to you, what you want to accomplish, then I consider that a success. So I don't think you can get into the 1% or 5% if you don't think you can be there, if you don't think that you're worthy of that, if you don't believe in that. So your thoughts determine, your outcome, your outcome in most instances, if you put the energy and the activity and everything behind that. But you got to think it. What's the old expression that anything that was ever created had to be thought in the mind first? And so if you think things in your mind, then ultimately you have the ability to create them in real life. But if you don't think it, it's never going to happen.
Are you there, Rick?
Yeah.
Okay, let me see. I got a volume problem here. Okay, we're back. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, perfectly.
Okay. Gosh, what just happened? My mother called. I knew I should have. Is that better? There we go. We're back.
Yeah.
My mother always called. I should have used. I knew I shouldn't have used my phone. Right? I go. My mother's gonna call me. I know she is. Right?
Mom always gets. Mom always is the exception. Mom's always okay to call.
Yeah. You're right. That's cool. She could break up the podcast.
Yeah.
So people quit, and I think the biggest reason why people quit when they start a business, regardless of whether it's this, that, or the other thing, it's mindset. They talk themselves out of it. They just their own thoughts put them out of business, right?
Right. That's what it is. I mean, sometimes people think about certain things, and again, the mindset. It's the bulletproof nature of your attitude, which kind of links into your mindset. That's what determines everything. When people give up too soon, they're giving up because of their mindset. They're giving up because of their attitude. They're not thinking a certain way. They're not approaching things a certain way. So how big a person is in this business, if they want to be big, they've got to think big. And I just understand that there's going to be ebbs and flows in everyone's business. There's going to be peaks, there's going to be valleys, but it's the mindset and the attitude that will get you through that period and through those times. But I do believe that very strongly that a person's results in this business is very much linked to their mindset and their attitude. No question.
Yeah, because what happens to the people that give up and the people that succeed, the same stuff happens to all of us.
That's right.
And like you said, how we handle that is, it's just so amazing. Jim Rohn, I remember meeting Jim Rohn years ago for the first time in '87. And one of the things he said that stuck with me forever, He said, Jack, for things to change, you have to change. For things to get better, you have to get better. Not your family, not the environment, not any of that stuff. And boy, I'll tell you what, that stuck with me forever.
Yeah, the same wind blows on us all is what he used to say. Again, Jim Rohn was such an amazing person. A lot of people don't know this about me, but before I got involved in network marketing as a profession 30 some odd years ago, I was involved very heavily in personal development. I used to actually work in business development. I worked for a gentleman by the name of Tom Hopkins, who was a sales trainer originally, and he actually recruited me, and I went and worked with his son and his son's seminar production team. And we used to travel around and do events, and through that that concept of being in self-development and business development, I got to spend time with Tony Robbins and Jim Rohn. I'll never forget, I was in a limousine with Jim Rohn after an event in Pittsburgh. And I got to sit there with him. He's the most real person you'd ever want to meet. I mean, what you saw on stage, that's who he was off the stage. And his philosophies and the things that he taught were so profound. What a treasure he was. Yeah, but that was a big one. For things to change, you have to change. And for things to get better, you have to get better. And he didn't sugarcoat it. He never sugarcoated anything, did he?
No, man. He could speak with clarity like nobody else, I'll tell you. In my opinion, he's up there with the best, if not, I mean, he's among the best, if not the best. But I'll tell you, I loved Tom Hopkins. Oh my gosh, I loved Tom Hopkins. He was like one of the first guys I listened to.
Yeah, Tommy is a good friend. He did a lot for me when I was coming up. He mentored me. One of these days, I'll tell you my Tom Hopkins story. You won't even believe it.
Oh gosh, those are great stories. Okay, so here's the $1 million question. Especially in our industry, the new person gets started and they're all excited, and my gosh, it's like this is the greatest thing ever. And they want to know, like, who do I talk to? Can you go into that?
For me, it's everybody. I never prejudge. I never try to categorize people and break them up into little categories, because one thing that I've learned, and this is a real important lesson for everyone, you hear a lot of times people say, well, I'm going to go after, if you're in a health related type of company, I'm going to go after doctors, I'm going to go after chiropractors, or I'm going to go after this organization or that organization. And I hear that a lot. And, that to me, what I was always taught is treat everyone nice, treat everyone with respect, be good to everyone, be kind to everyone, because one thing we know for sure in our business is you never know who the top leaders are going to be. And you can't prejudge people just because of their income or their circumstances or their background or who they are, where they came from. You don't know what desire a person has in their heart. So you have to treat everyone kind and with respect. It's the right thing to do. Number one, it's the golden rule, obviously, but also don't look at that single mom out there as, oh, she wouldn't be good because she's got too much on her plate right now being a single mom. Or don't look at, Bill over here because, Bill wouldn't be good because, he does this and this wouldn't be good for him. Or Jim's an attorney, he's too important for this. You've got to talk to people about the company and the product at every opportune moment. Now, that could be getting started with your list of names, your circle of influence, people that you know, people you like, you trust, family, friends, neighbors, coworkers. We always start with that circle of influence. Is a great place to begin. And then from there, you can branch out to referrals that they might have for you. But obviously now in this world of social media, we have a Facebook friends list, an Instagram friends list. There's groups out there that you can get into and you can bring value to them and start friendships and relationships. And then people that you meet during the course of your day, you can go out there and you can find ways to brand yourself where people even ask you a question about what it is that you have or what it is that you're doing. So the whole world is your oyster. You can talk to everybody. You can invite everybody to take a look. But the one piece of advice that I got a long time ago and was very, very powerful, and I'm sure, Jack, you've heard this one, is at every opportune moment, share the product, share the opportunity at every opportune moment. Because the one that you decide, well, we're in line at the bank, I'm too busy, I'm not going to approach this person, that could be the biggest person in your company that you just walk right past. So talk to everybody. Don't prejudge. Everybody's got a story. Just talk to everybody. And let what's going to happen. There's a safety in numbers and a law of averages, and that's just kind of how it all shakes out. And if you just do this over time, eventually the key people that are going to be your key leaders on your team, they will surface.
Yeah. That's such good stuff. It brings me, the basics never changed, do they, Rick? They're constant, right?
Right.
And they never change. They'll be the same in 10 years and 20 years. That'll all be the same stuff. I appreciate you again being here with me. That's the big one though, the big question, right? Well, who do I talk to? And talk to people at every opportune moment, every chance you get. You just don't let that pass you by. I know that working with people over the years, one of the biggest struggles people have, because they don't have a boss looking over their shoulder and they employ themselves, is they struggle with accountability. Can you talk to me about how important is accountability and how do you do it?
Well, again, that some of that trickles back over to the mindset thing, right? Some of that trickles back over to mindset and attitude, and it's true. A lot of people are not built to be entrepreneurs because there's no class for it. A lot of people are trained, and I'm sad to say this, but it's kind of reality, is they're trained only to do things when they're told to do them, or if they have, a job, they're trained 9 to 5. I go to work, I do this list of activities, and I do that every day, and that's how I get my paycheck, and that's how I get paid. But when you become an entrepreneur, you've got to have self-motivation, self-determination. You've got to have that inside yourself to get yourself to do what you normally would not do. And, it's the concept of employing yourself. You have to hold yourself accountable. It's interesting. There's two different places where I've kind of heard this concept of employ yourself. The first place that I heard it, if you look at the book Think and Grow Rich, they talk about your other self. There's an other self that you have, and that other self has the ability to move you and motivate you and make you do things that you normally wouldn't do. It's when you find yourself talking, I know I should do this, I know I should do this. You find yourself talking to yourself. Your other self can help you to do what you need to do. If you want to make 10 calls today, you don't feel like doing it, maybe there's something on TV, or you're going to rather go out and do something, that other self is in your ear telling you, you need to make those 10 calls before you do anything else, right? So you have to employ yourself in that sense. And I also heard it from one of the mentors that we have in common, is the concept of employing yourself. You can literally build yourself, kind of your second self, and use that second self to kind of push you along and motivate you. And certainly it pays if you have a planner, if you list things out and you work off of a list to do the things that you have to do. But you have to be accountable to that list. One thing we can't give people, Jack, is desire. You can't give someone desire. That's something they have to have on their own. I mean, we can teach people what to do. We can be there with them. But if they don't have the desire to do it every day, then ultimately they'll find an excuse and a reason not to do it. So, but it is important that if someone wants to succeed, if the desire is there, they have to build this attitude and this mindset that I'm going to employ myself, and start by using lists, work off of lists, focus on accomplishing what you put on your lists, income generating activities, your daily method of operation, the things that matter in your business. And, learn to get tuned in to communicate with yourself, have kind of that alter ego, if you will, that is kind of taking and holding you accountable when you need to be held accountable with all the stuff that you're doing. So employing yourself is very, very important. And this is where a lot of people go sideways, because they don't have that formalized training, but they have to begin to develop that muscle, just like anything else. It's a muscle that has to be developed, getting yourself to do what you're supposed to do. And those are just a few of my thoughts, on that.
Yeah, that's such a big challenge, that accountability thing. Early on, we were taught that at the end of the day, you had to record what you were doing. You had to use what was called a gauge sheet. And for me, I think keeping gauges was one of the most important things that I learned. I gauge everything I do today, the things that are important to me. It's like a handful of things that I gauge. Like when I go into the gym, something as simple as, well, my gym's over there right on the other side of my office, so it's easy for me to get there. But at the end of my workout, I put a number in the box. I did workout number 1 today. I got like 5 different workouts, cover all the body parts, and then tomorrow I do workout number 2, and I put a number in the box. And when I go back and I look at that gauge sheet, and I can see how consistent I've been with my workouts, that really helps me. It motivates me. And then there's times when the funny thing is, if you don't keep gauges, if you don't record what you're doing, you think you're actually doing more than you do. Like there's been many times where I said, I don't have to work out today. I worked out yesterday and the day before and the day before. And I look at my gauges and I'm like, shit, I haven't worked out in 2 days. Because it kind of all gets wrapped up in the fold and you kind of forget, didn't I do it? That kind of thing. So, the gauge sheet, I read something about accountability. I read a lot about accountability, but just having the idea of, or let's say starting a business or, a business idea, just having that thought, you have like a 10% chance that you'll do it and be successful. But if you take that business idea and you put together a plan and a serious accountability plan, and you have that serious accountability plan, you raise your odds of success to like 90%. I mean, that's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, I think when you have the ability to take and also put things on paper so that you have something to look at. I don't know what it is, but there's magic when you think certain things and then you take those thoughts and get them on paper. Writing them down, working off of lists. What are your key things that you have to do? I kind of go by a concept I learned a long time ago called the 6 things principle. This is actually comes out of a training from Earl Nightingale from his program, Lead the Field. And I learned it from that. And it was, every single evening before you go to bed, in your planner, in your notebook, whatever you use, I have a little, one that I use, list the 6 most important things you have to do tomorrow in order of importance. Prioritize them, all 6. And when you wake up in the morning, your focus and goal is to go to point number 1 on that list and do it. And then when it's done, cross it off. And then point number 2, do it. Anything you didn't get to goes at the top of the list for the next day. Okay. And that way you're being very productive with what it is that you're doing. And so it's very important when you're employing yourself to have some type of tools or mechanisms to kind of keep yourself accountable. And that's one of them. I always go back and forth. I don't know about you, Jack. I go back and forth. Like sometimes we're in the digital world. So I got my phone. I don't need a planner anymore. I just do it all on my phone. But then I miss the concept of writing things out. So then I go buy a detailed planner. And then I go back to the phone. Now what I've found is, for me, I like a hybrid approach where, yes, I have everything in my phone, but I also have a planner. I use one called Planner Pad. It's not a detailed, super expensive planner, but it just allows you to do a brain dump and just start putting together your schedule and your lists, and then you can add them to your phone if you want to add them to your phone. But I find that helps me to be accountable, because if I'm staring at things I've got to do, I'm more inclined to do them than if I don't write anything down, don't think about anything, and I'm just, floating.
Yeah, I have a hard time getting away from paper. I have tried so much to go everything digital, because it's just so much like neater and it's all compact and it's always with you. But I keep going back to the notebook. I keep going back to the paper and pencil. I think there's something, we're wired as human beings when we do this, with the hand and the paper, and we're writing from the, it's just something that I think people miss when they don't do that. I mean, there's a whole generation that don't use paper and pen. You know what I mean?
That's true.
And but it's a challenge. Okay, so now let's say we're working with somebody. Being a network marketer, we build our success off of helping other people to become successful. But reality is, at the same time, it really doesn't make a difference what they do. What makes a difference is what we do. So how important is it? I mean, for a new person or an older person, they know this though. When we're working with others and they're not doing their thing, it messes us up, doesn't it? And we think that we got to get them to do it, and we forget that we have to do it. And that's the most important thing. That's primary, not secondary. Can you go into this thing about, my people aren't working, so that's why I'm struggling? No, your people aren't working because you're not working. That kind of thing.
Well, there's this old concept, and the concept is that there's different modalities of our business, right? There's the first modality. I'm trying to remember this now because I don't have it exactly in my head. You'll get the point though. I'll try not to mangle it. The first mode of business is the building mode. You're out there every day you're talking to people, you're putting on customers, you're sponsoring new folks, you're getting your new folks launched, but you're constantly talking to new people. You're building, you're actively doing the business yourself, and you're gathering the customers and you're sponsoring people. And then what happens is people will get a group to a certain point where, you know, they've got a nucleus of people, and they slow down and they stop building and they start managing the people that they've got, you know, here, trying to work with them. You know, I'm going to work with my people, and they're, you know, they're instructing them what to do, and they're training, maybe they're doing calls for them, meetings for them. And what happens is they've gone into this management mode where they're managing what they got. And because we're in a business of duplication, and because we're in a business where a lot of people have different philosophies on, you know, their belief, what we talked about just a little bit ago, some people won't work, some people will wait, some people procrastinate. You can rip your hair out of your head trying to get your team to do something, but not everybody has the same goals and is inspired the way that you are. So some people that are moving much slower than you, it can be frustrating for you. And then what happens is then you start blaming. You go into the third mode, which is blaming, which is where, you know, you're not working, you're not doing anything, you know, maybe we need something new from the company, or my upline's not helping. And so we start blaming, and then all of a sudden our business starts to get stagnant, and it could even go backwards. So you got the building mode, you've got the management mode, then you got the blaming mode. And if you keep up with that, eventually you're going to go into the bankrupt mode. The key to the whole thing is staying in that building mode. It's constantly staying in that mode where you are always talking to new people. You're always putting on new customers and new distributors. You're always leading by example, because if you're leading by example, your team will see what you're doing, and they'll know that, you know, my sponsor, my upline leadership is leading by example. They're not asking me to do anything they're not doing. So they're out there doing the deal. And certainly you set aside time to mentor people and work with people directly. And you've got to invest the time in them. But if you're in the building mode, you're always going to have new people coming on board. You're not going to have time to chase after the ones that maybe really don't want it right now. So by you doing it, I find it's a better method for getting your team doing it than you just, you know, cracking the whip, trying to explain to them what they should be doing. Stay in the building mode. If you stay in the building mode, there's always new people to launch and new people to be working with. At least that's what I've found.
Yeah, no doubt. You know, people say, Jack, you've been doing this for so long. How do you stay motivated? And I never really had a problem staying motivated. And I've realized after years of staying motivated, what motivates me is when I'm consistent. It's like the flip side of the same coin. And because when you're not consistent, you lose motivation. Well, they say, well, how do you stay consistent? Well, it's because I'm motivated. So you can't have one without the other. If you're consistent, you'll get motivated. If you're not consistent, you lose that motivation. And so to get motivated, just get to work, stay consistent, because it does build your motivation. It's like building momentum in the gym. The more you go, every day you go, you get more motivated to go. Then it becomes like hard for you not to go to the gym. It becomes hard, and the motivation stays strong because you're consistent, right?
Yeah, you don't want to lose that feeling. Once you get going and you've got some momentum going, you don't want to lose that feeling. And you know that, you know, if you could just get going and you could just be consistent for a week, 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 60 days, 90 days, and you've got some momentum going, and you know that you've got that momentum going, you know how challenging it can be to get there, to get that momentum established and get that momentum going. You don't want to lose that. So you have to continue to be consistent. And another thing that motivates me, and this is one of the things I encourage folks on our team to do, is, you know, find out what your passion is. What are you excited about? What are the reasons why you're doing this? Why do you want to build a successful business? And then what you want to do is keep those reasons in front of you. Step into them with emotion whenever you feel like you're having a rough day or a rough week or a rough month. You know, use that passion of your reason why you're doing this to pull you back in. I'm not saying that you have to go to a 3-day goal setting class or anything like that, because people, I think, intrinsically know what they want. You know, one of the early goals that I had, and I'm kind of embarrassed to share this right now, but I was in my early 20s. You know, I said to myself, I want a car. I saw a car and I was like, this is a really sharp car. It's a silver Cadillac STS. They don't do the STS anymore, I don't think. But it was a really incredible car for someone that was like 21, 22 years old. I was like, man, I'm driving that car. Everyone, all my friends are going to look at me going, man, what's going on there? So I set that as my goal, and I got pictures, and I went to the dealership, and I thought about it. And it's amazing how when you start getting your mind locked onto something, everywhere you look, you'll see the thing you want. It'll just show up everywhere all of a sudden. And it took me about 9 months. And 9 months after I set that goal, I was driving in a car that was almost identical to the one that I had set for myself. So if you want to live in a certain neighborhood, cruise that neighborhood once in a while. Just take it all in. If you want to drive a certain car, get in and go test drive one. Get a couple pictures of it. Look at it once in a while. Let it fire you up. Maybe you want to do something for your kids. Think about that. Put yourself in that. It could be whatever you want it to be, because we're all different with what we want. But know what you want and keep it near you, and really revisit it emotionally, visualize it, and stay focused on it, because that's going to give you the juice when maybe you get a little bit burnt out. But also be consistent, because when you're seeing the results and you see that your team is growing and your volume is going up and you rank advance and you're helping other people rank advance, that can be incredibly exciting too. And that's, by the way that you get to your passion, the way that you get to what it is that you want, is by doing the daily method of operation and helping your team to succeed. And if you can do those things, eventually whatever goal you set for yourself, you're going to get. One other thing that keeps me motivated, Jack, I know what the upside of this industry is.
Yeah.
I've seen, and not everybody's motivated by this, but I'm fascinated by it and I'm excited by it. I've seen what the top people in our industry earn. And, that to me is very, very exciting. If you work hard, what potentially could happen. And again, that's not something that's going to motivate everybody. Some people, that won't motivate them. It might even turn them off. I don't understand why, but it might. Me, when I see that upside potential, knowing that someone like myself, who never went to college, who's kind of average going through school, could achieve that, that's motivating to me. So I try to wrap a sense of urgency around everything that I do, thinking that, I've got a certain amount of time to do this, and I want to get it done as quickly as I can. So those are some of the things for me. I'm like you. It's never been hard for me to stay motivated.
Yeah, it's a good thing. We've been blessed by that. When someone gets started with us, a lot of people struggle with the fact that they don't have the time. They think in their mind. And can someone start part-time and be successful? I mean, can someone start just like an hour or two a day? Is it possible they can do that? I know they can, but what are your thoughts on the part-time person and really focusing on, an hour or two a day? What does that do?
I think that's where most of the success in our industry comes from. If you were to look at the most successful people in our industry, I see a very high percentage of them started part-time. Yes, you can do it. What's really cool about our business is that we have systems and we have tools and we have training and education in an environment where you can gain leverage. And leverage allows you to get more done in less time. And so, for example, and every company's different, so I'm just generalizing here, but if you have, let's say, a short little video that does a quick couple-minute explanation of what it is that you do, you could talk to someone and send them the video. Well, you could talk to 2, 3, 4, 5 people and send the video 2, 3, 4, 5 times. That video is going to take a lot of that work out of your hands. Same thing with a longer video or a presentation or a Zoom meeting, or if you take people to an event. So, as long as you focus on the income generating activities, which is talking to people, it's talking to people and getting them dialed into whatever your presentation is in your company or whatever your presentation is in your team. Yes, you can do a lot in 1 to 2 hours a day, a whole lot. Because for me, when I'm talking to someone, a new prospect, it's basically just an invitation. I'm inviting them to learn a little bit more about what it is that I'm doing. And that only takes a couple of minutes, actually. And what I try to do is get them onto a third-party tool as quickly as I can, because that's what keeps my business duplicatable. I don't want to take 25 or 30 minutes or an hour and try to explain to someone what I'm doing, because they may not be able to duplicate that. And after about the 4th person, I'm going to want to quit myself. So it's all about having tools and systems in place. You can get more done in less time. Couple hours a day, even an hour a day, 5, 6, 7 hours a week. Yes, you can absolutely do this. And what's really exciting is that if you're consistent in the right activities, it could be a relatively short amount of time before your little gig becomes your big gig.
Yeah, no doubt. I love the talk we had. You know, we could go on for quite a while because we've got so much, you know, that our frame of reference is loaded with good
Oh, yeah.
stuff. And but Rick, I really appreciate you being here, and I look forward to maybe catching up again sometime and doing another little talk. You know, there's a lot of people starting in our industry today. I mean, lots of people. This, you know, this ambassador programs, and you know, working for a manufacturer, selling their products. I mean, it's bigger today than ever. I just happen to think that, you know, the way that we get paid is probably the best pay plan in the world. When, you know, I'll never forget, my sponsor, my mentor said to me, he goes, Jack, if you build this business, he said, you can build a business that will last a lifetime. And I have to say it's true, because since 1987, it's been the greatest thing. And it just, I thank God every day for this industry. And I encourage any new people considering to get involved in network marketing, to just do it, and do it an hour or two a day. Don't you agree?
100%. I mean, if you think about this, the next 1, 2, 3 years of your life is going to go by very quickly, whether you want it to or not. Right? I mean, if you think about just 2 years ago, 3 years ago, it probably seems just like yesterday to you. But if you can take and you can pour a little bit of time, just a couple hours a day, maybe even less or more, depending upon, you know, what you can do, but just let's say 1 to 2 hours a day, pour it into something where you have a marketing plan where you can get residual income, but also get leverage. Those are the two keys. If you put your time and energy into that, the next 1, 2, 3 years, you can have a business that pays you a passive income. There are people that work 20, 25, 30 years to develop a pension. Whereas in this business, if you just work a few hours, handful of hours a week for 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 years, you can build up an income that's more than any pension that you can get. So yeah, there's some value in this, and you just got to get the right attitude dialed in, like we talked about. Be passionate about what it is that you're doing, know your reasons, and then just be consistent every single day over time. And if you do that, this is a phenomenal business. I mean, there's things here. I mean, I never could in a million years dream that I'd have the freedom and flexibility that my wife and I have today as a result of this business. It truly is amazing. The mechanics here they're better than anything else I've ever seen, for sure.
Yeah. Rick Hager, you are the boss. I love the hat. Really good hat. That's cool. And I appreciate you supporting my podcast, The Fighting Networker. And I want to thank you so much for joining us. Folks, I hope you enjoyed our little talk today. We'll be back next week. We've got some great guests lined up. And Rick, thank you so much. And we will be in touch. Hang in there, bud.